Good evening, good evening, everyone. I hope that you are having an amazing day so far. Hopefully, you've had a real blessed day so far. Good to see you. Happy Thursday. I am actually en route to church. Just literally made it to church to get prepared, but I wanted to come in and share some important information with you all as I just completed an online training about some important information that I think will help you all as you prepare for this next phase of business with COVID and things that you should know, even if you are not an entrepreneur, even if you don't have a business, just for your overall general safety. And some things I think you need to know. So I'm not going to prolong the time because I want to get some information in before I start church shortly. Okay. Some things that I wanted to talk to you about. I have a lot of notes. I'm just going to go through some things briefly. If you have some other questions, definitely drop your questions and I will try to come back and answer them if I see them while I'm talking. And then I'll come back and answer them. If not, I will definitely go back and answer them at a later time because I want to make sure that I give you all information that you can stay informed. Okay. Um, this class that I took was as it relates to CDC guidelines and hosting events and status of vaccinations and how you should handle situations of whether or not you have those that are vaccinated or not vaccinated, or those who say they're vaccinated and they're not vaccinated but say that to avoid strict guidelines like wearing your mask and things of that nature. So one of the things they talked about is event planners may choose to verify COVID 19 vaccination statuses at the time of having people attend your event. What does that look like? You can say, okay, hey, I'm hosting an event, even if you are not COVID vaccinated, or if you are COVID vaccinated, you can say something like, kindly, hey, even if you're vaccinated or not, we're asking that everyone would come in and wear your mask. This is a mask required event. Maybe to make everyone feel well, maybe get some customized masks for your event so people can feel not isolated or secluded if they do have even if they have been vaccinated or not. Sometimes people who have not been vaccinated, um, they feel a little secluded in a sense, because they're being targeted because they have made a decision not to be vaccinated for whatever reason. Well, sometimes to make people feel more comfortable, most people are saying, you know what, whether you've been vaccinated or not, let's just all wear a mask. Okay, so you as event planners can choose to say, I want everyone to wear their mask. Or if there's an event that you're hosting, a more private, intimate event. Sometimes even your bigger venues now, like your concert halls and different things, they're not even letting you in with proof of vaccination. Now CDC is having issues and concerns where people are falsely duplicating vaccination cards. What does that mean? That means that they're going out. I've been vaccinated, so I can show my card. What My husband and I went out of the country, so we had to have vaccination. Um, so that was a couple months ago, but my card looks like this, right? Cards looks like this if you've been vaccinated, right? I'm not sure if you can see that. I'm in a card. Okay. So you can people are now going around falsely duplicating vaccination cards. It's a very common thing that's going on now. People are out here selling them on the black market in a sense. So people are out here with their crafty computer knowledgeable skills and graphic art skills, and they're duplicating vaccination cards and they're selling them and distributing. And so really they're saying just because someone has a vaccination card doesn't mean they are actually vaccinated, right? So if you are saying you can't come to my event until you show proof that you are vaccinated, yes, sister, selling the cards, you can't come to this event because until you show that you are vaccinated, then proof of vaccination, people who are wanting to go places really bad and don't operate in a level of integrity, they are out here purchasing. People are out here actually doing this. This is real. Selling vaccination cards, right? And false hopes of it allowing people to get into places and go places where only quote vaccinated people can go. So what does that look like, right? Some people recently used false vaccination cards and traveled out of the country. Well, on your vaccination card, it actually has vial numbers. What does that mean when it says vial numbers? It actually means numbers. Um, it actually means numbers. Hold on, you guys. Hold on. And so what does that do? People been getting these false vaccination cards traveling out of the country, and they're getting stopped out of the country and being fined anywhere between $8,000 to $16,000 and being jailed for false vaccination cards, because you are not only lying saying that you are vaccinated, you are endangering people who are on resorts and other places who have done the necessary steps in getting vaccinated. Okay, so listen, do not do that. So as event planners, you can do things to say, hey, I don't know if you've been vaccinated or not, but here's some cute custom masks that we have. We want to give everyone one so everyone will be unified and on one accord, and it makes people not feel secluded. Okay, that's just from a nice perspective of saying I've been vaccinated, or if I have not. But from the courtesy of me hosting the event, I can control what goes on at my events, right? From a perspective as a chef, I just honor God because we birthed the ultimate hibachi experience in the middle of the pandemic. Right at the beginning of the pandemic, we launched the hibachi experience. We've been into hundreds of homes starting from last March up to this current point, and God has protected us. That myself or my husband or none of our team has been COVID positive, and we would get tested every other week for COVID tests because we were out so much. I know we were exposed because everywhere we went, everyone wasn't vaccinated then. People, half the time, we would be like, you need to wear your mask, you need to do this. And then sometimes people get offensive when you tell them to wear their mask. But we always had on our masks, we always had on gloves, we always sanitized, we always wiped down. But we thank God, it's by the grace of God that we were protected, right? So we're going to use wisdom. When I go to events, I can control what atmosphere I go into as a chef, or as a person they've called in to host an event or to monitor an event. I have certain requirements when I show up. One of the requirements is everyone in here has to have their temperature checked. I am not dependent on whoever it is who's hosting the event to do that. Someone on my team is, as they're coming in, we're checking your temperatures, right? Because sometimes people don't want to be quote the bad guy by saying, hey, let me check your temperature and things of that nature, right? But it's okay if you consider us to be the bad guy, because we're protecting ourselves. We have to go home to our families. We have a lot of things we have to do, so we're making sure that everyone is protected around us, right? The federal government does not require vaccination for people. Is not a requirement, but they are asking you to do it because the cases are increasingly going up, right? And it's increasingly going up because people are not masking up. And when they are masking up, they are wrongfully masking up. Just to share a few things with you as event planners, some things that I think that you should do, that we talked about during this training, to prevent people from being so close in contact with people is, as event planners or wedding planners or chefs or caterers, whatever your profession is in the event planning industry, do creative ways to prevent crowd cluttering. What do I mean when I say cloud cluttering? I mean, put your tables and chairs in nice little elegant ways so that people are not cluttered around, right? You can space your tables out. Now they're recommending in events where there are a lot of people, spacing them out between 7 to 10 feet apart. So even if they are 6 feet apart, people walking through them or whatever, 8 to 10 feet apart gives you a little bit more space to walk through tables. Well, when I'm doing events and I'm hosting large events like weddings I have coming up, right? I have a few weddings that I have coming up that are large groups of people, right? I've chosen to talk with their wedding planners and say, okay, this is how I feel comfortable doing it. Let's not have every table get up at once. Let's just have tables 1, 2, and 3. You can come up. Let's have multiple food stations, right? So everyone is not crowded into one specific place, trying to get food. We can have food over here on this side. We can have food on this side. So now everyone has the opportunity to move freely and they are not cluttered. Maybe have food stations. If you having appetizers or parties and you having stations, let's have a station over here, a station over here, a station over here. So different people can go to different places, but to keep lines moving freely, multiple food stations will always be good. If you are places where you are having bars set up or bartenders set up, multiple bar stations, multiple beverage stations, so that people are not cluttered in one space. Okay, so as event planners, we have the authority to be able to control crowds and to control atmospheres based off how we regulate traffic. Okay, maybe put up cute little barriers. It can be roping areas off. Maybe when you have events and you have seniors that are there, sometimes seniors are not coming out, sometimes they are. Well, they are a little bit more sensitive and their systems are a little bit more open and more perceptible to the virus, right? So maybe to not make them feel bad, you can have VIP areas excluded. Like, hey, all of our people who are 60 and older, this is your VIP area over here. Oh, well, they feel great, right? I got a nice VIP area, but we are protecting them. But they don't want to feel targeted. They don't want to feel left out. They don't want to feel like I can't touch or be around people. But this is an area that we're designating for you, so that anybody who comes in this area, you are required to have masks, because now we're looking out for the well-being of our seniors, right? People have gone a long time without seeing their loved ones, and we want to make sure that we keep them safe. A few things that I want to be mindful of you of is having your Lysol, right? Things like your Lysol. I hope you guys can see that. Like your Lysol cans, right? Your microban, whatever it is that you're using, right? Whether you having, I'm in my car teaching a real good lesson, right? Whether you have your Clorox wipes and stuff, guess what? These are things now that I can go into my Sam's Club, I can go into my Costco, and I can buy them in abundance now with no problem. They are predicting that it's going to be hard in the next upcoming weeks to find these things again. When you go into your Sam's Club, your Costco, wherever it is that you go in Sam's Club, you can go in there and buy 3 cans of Lysol. I think it's like $13 or something like that. If you can find these things in your area, get them and get them now. Why? Because it's going to be a time they predict it's going to be hard to find these things again. And when you can't find them again, then people are all on the internet selling a can of Lysol for $25, 1 can of Lysol, because we are not taking advantage of times where we consider slow, right? Stock up on your cleaning products, stock up on your hand sanitizers, get your Clorox wipes, and be mindful of that. Start getting your water, start getting your tissue, start getting things that you know were extremely difficult for you to get in the beginning of the pandemic. Because right now you can get them without a problem, but they're predicting that it's going to be a time again that it's going to be hard to get these things, okay? One other thing they talked about is proper mask wearing. Proper mask wearing. One thing that they shared that I wanted to make sure that I shared with you all is about your mask wearing and things that you should or should not be doing as it relates to wearing your mask. They said that you should not be wearing masks like these. So this is a little mask that my son likes to wear because it's a little Nike mask, right? It's cute. He feel like it matches his little Nike shoes and all these things. You wearing them. They look like this on the inside. But guess what they're saying? They're saying that these masks right here are not the best masks for you to be wearing. A lot of people have their custom design masks with their business names on them, or their little fake Nike mask, or whatever mask that you're wearing. You're wearing these things, but they're saying these are not the best masks to wear. Why? Because they hold moisture. You can wear these masks and you can have them on. Yep, they look real cute when you have them on. You like got your little Nike sign, but they absorb moisture in your respiratory area. And we know COVID has come to attack the respiratory system. So they are advising you to get masks that are like these, your regular 3-layer masks that are disposable. Disposable masks. These masks like these, you want to get them, you put them on, put them the right way. Crunch over your nose and cover your mouth. Is a proper way to wear it. Over your nose and over your mouth. Over your nose, Stretch it and over your mouth, okay? You're wearing the mask properly. These masks are not meant to be worn 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. They are disposable. Why? Because once you put them on, you go out to church, you go to work, you do whatever. You come home, you put it in your car and put it back on. Whatever you've come in contact with, you just put it back into your face again. Stop it. They want you to wear those masks because they are less likely to house moisture. The COVID vaccine began to attack the upper respiratory system. It began to attack the respiratory system. And when it begins to attack the respiratory system, what happens? Your body begins to feel the hit and it begins to get weakened. You do not want to do that, okay? You want to go in and you want to remind yourself that I want to have masks that I can get proper ventilation. If you have on a mask and all of this in here is moist and you're sweating behind it, guess what? That's not a mask that you should have on. The masks are, disposable, but there are some masks that you get more ventilation in than you get in others, okay? So in critical COVID-19 cases, about 15% of the total cases, the infection can damage the walls and the linings of the air sac in the lungs, okay? COVID-19 affects the upper respiratory tract, sinuses, your nose, the throat area, and the lower respiratory tract, your windpipe, and your lungs. So if COVID comes to do those things and you are wearing masks like this because they're cute and they have designs on them, you have no ventilation, right? And so when you don't have proper ventilation, after so many hours of expecting someone to have this on for 8 hours and not expecting them to be like this, hey, how you doing? All this is open. All of this is open. So you have no air. Go to look and see if you can find your N95 mask. Some places now are just literally stores I went into. They're literally giving masks away now because they ordered them in so much of an abundance when COVID was at its peak that now they are glad to just even be able to get a mask, right? So they're like, we don't need them no more. People don't let their guards down. CDC was like, please don't do that. Please don't do that. That's why the hospitals are overloaded now with children. Why? Children were not, quote, a target age group in the beginning of this. They're saying now that children are being more affected now because of the negligence of adults. You have kids now who are at schools who are not wearing masks because it's not a mandate and it's not the cool thing to do. Some of the kids don't want to be the only kid at school that's wearing a mask when all my friends don't have a mask on. Or they be like, oh, your friends peer pressure. Oh, you still wearing a mask? You don't have to wear a mask if you vaccinated. Well, my children do, and I don't care, and they have been vaccinated, but they are still going to wear their mask, right? So they're saying the children are being more affected because of the negligence of adults. Adults are going out to parties, they're going to hanging out, they're going to football games, they're going to concerts, and just because you've been vaccinated does not mean that you cannot catch COVID, okay? It's just supposed to mean that you are less likely to feel a stronger impact of COVID than some people who have not been. Masks like these, the designer masks, they hold moisture. COVID begins to affect the respiratory system. So if you have moisture behind this mask trapped in, it begins to affect you. Go back to using your disposable mask like this. Wear it properly. Wearing it like this is not helping you. Go back and wear your mask properly. Cover up your nose and cover up your mouth. If you have a mask and you have a big gap in between your mask, right, then maybe you need to take it and twist the strings a little bit and give yourself a little bit more coverage. Because sometimes some of these masks are too big and then they don't give you the proper coverage you need to protect during COVID, right? So these are just some things that they were talking to us about that I felt was important. Go back to getting your water. Go back to getting your tissue. Go back to getting your hand wipes and your Clorox wipes and your Lysol and your microban. Go back to sanitizing your hands. Go back to the things that you stopped doing because you thought it was safe enough to stop doing, okay? Encourage your children to wear their masks, right? Encourage them to do that. If you are an event planner or you host events, go back to using strategy and how to place and organize events to keep people from being cluttered and overcrowded and congregating more than they need to congregate, okay? Now, if you're going to an event like me, sometimes I don't always plan events. I'm being invited in as a chef. I'm being invited in as a hibachi chef or a personal chef or whatever the case may be. I can control what environments I come into. If my requirements is that everyone's temperature is taken as if you want me to come, then I don't ever have a problem with people, coinciding with that, because that's one of my requirements for me showing up is, hey, continue to ask the questions. Have you been exposed to COVID? Have you been coughing? Have you had any fever? Shortness of breath, those things. Ask these questions of your people. When they come, we will have someone on our team that's saying, hey, how you doing? Welcome. We taking your temperature, right? These are things that make us feel comfortable and safe, because I have to go home to my husband. My husband and I have to go home to our children. I serve in my ministry at church. I do these things, and I'm not going to expose people because of the negligence of other people. So go back, learning how to do strategies. Go back to wearing your mask properly. Go back to physical social distance, right? Go back to hand hygiene. That's washing your hands frequently, sanitizing your hands frequently. Go back to respiratory etiquettes. That means stop wearing things that are producing moisture in these areas and start using these masks. And once you use them, throw them away. Go to Amazon and order you 100 of them. I order them in black. 100 of these masks or whatever, like $9 or $10. Use them when you come home. Throw them away. Stop hanging them up in your car mirrors and stuff that I be seeing people hanging them up like air fresheners, and then you use them and you come back in all day and you come back, you put back on tomorrow. You're defeating the purpose of practicing respiratory hygiene. Okay, don't do that. Use the masks. They're meant to be disposed. They're not meant to be continuously recycled. Okay, the masks look cute, but it's not helping you. It's holding moisture and you don't want to do that. All right, get rid of that. Okay, don't do it because it's not helping you. Go back to improve your ventilation for indoor events. Okay, when you have indoor events, you need to be spaced out enough that you have good indoor ventilation, right? Conduct routine cleaning, maintenance of your facilities. In our ministry, we have a team that goes around and spray consistently, spraying Lysol and things like that. Make sure you follow your safety guidelines. For me, make sure that your staff and attendees wear masks correctly and attentively. Meaning, even though we may get hot or whatever, and I'm standing over a grill, I'm always going to have my mask on. If I feel that there's a lot of heat rising and my mask get a little bit too moist for me, I'm taking it off and I'm throwing it away and I'm going to put on another mask. Encourage physical distance. Encourage the staff and attendees to cover their mouths when they sneeze or cough and wash their hands. Those things are important, right? Encourage your staff or attendees to stay at home if they feel sick or have even any cold or flu-like symptoms, and to get tested, because COVID can be very slick, right? You can be having a simple cough or cold and then you don't know what it is. So if you are feeling these ways, go to places and get these tests done. They're free. Tell your staff and attendees who are not fully vaccinated and have been in close contact with someone who is confirmed COVID case to quarantine and get tested. Don't just get quarantined, but quarantine and get tested. That's important. Conduct contact tracing in combination with isolation and quarantine for staff and attendees who show symptoms. That means these are steps like, okay, hey, I'm feeling a little sick. Oh, who are you around? Do they know? Or were they aware? Do you know if they had COVID? Start beginning to try to track your steps to realize. Organizers might choose to separate attendees into groups when arranging seats or planning activities for an event or gathering. This approach can limit the spread of the virus that causes COVID-19 between small groups, but it should not replace any preventive measures that you have in place, like wearing your mask. What does that mean? When you're table seating and you're having events, ask people to group up with their families or group up with people who they feel comfortable with. Start pairing people with families so that you will be around people who you live in the same house with or people who you trust and you know they are taking care of themselves and following proper protocol, right? CDC does not at this point have specific numbers, including maximum or minimum numbers of attendance for events right now, but event organizers should work with local and public health officials to follow acceptable laws and regulations that are related to your own COVID protocols. What does that mean? Me as an event planner or caterer, or you as an event planner, you should implement your own safety procedures. You should be working with the wedding planners or whoever it is who hired you, or if I'm hosting an event, or people who are working with us, to follow procedures that are going to help, minimize COVID outbreaks, right? You should also be monitoring everyone in the area who you bring in as vendors. So that means if I'm hosting an event and I have somebody coming in doing decorations, or if I have someone coming in doing balloons, or if I have someone coming in helping me to serve, they are now under 10 swallows rules, right? So that means I'm gonna say, okay, hey, you're required to wear your mask, you're required to wear gloves at all times. Have you been sick? Have you been exposed? Like, I can screen people who I've called to come in and partner with me on events. So as event planners, we can love people, but we also have to be mindful that these are rules and procedures that have to be followed, so we need to share them with them, okay? The event space should allow people who are not fully vaccinated against COVID to remain 6 to 8 feet apart whenever you are indoors. Okay? If you are outdoors, if you're encouraged now, if you can have outdoor events, have outdoor events, because you have the circulation of the natural air and people are not confined. Okay, so we want to encourage that. That's one thing why I'm thankful about the Ultimate Hibachi experience that we have, is because it allows people to be outdoors and be open and not cluttered and closed into buildings. Okay, so these are just some things I want to come in and share with you. A few pointers to take away. Start back looking for your Lysol, your Microban. Start back looking for your wet wipes to wipe things down. Start back looking for your hand sanitizer. If you stop, go back to it. Get rid of these masks like these that hold moisture, because they're not good for you, considering COVID is a respiratory, it attacks the respiratory system. Okay, go back to wearing masks like this. Properly wear them over your mouth and over your nose. All right, if you wear these masks outside and do whatever you're going to do during that day, when you get home, throw these masks away. Do not continue to use these same masks over and over again. They're not good for you, and they're not healthy, and you're not protecting your respiratory system as you should. Okay, so hopefully this information and some tools that will help you as you move on throughout navigating safety protocols for COVID. Just go back and rewatch this video, share it for people who may need to go back and watch it. But as event planners and those who are private chefs or cooks or whatever your profession is, if you go into these atmospheres, use common sense. Okay, use your wisdom. Go back to practicing safety protocols for not just only you, but those that are around you, and be mindful that you still have to go back home to your families and to your children, so you want to be protected at all times. Okay, all right, have an amazing night. Remember, go back to practicing safety protocols. It's going to be important in the weeks to come. All right, God bless you. Goodbye.